Does it make for good public policy if it's simply based on public opinion?
No, of course.
What Ms. Harman seemed to be suggesting.
But I mean, to be honest, it's a complicated relationship between politicians and public opinion, isn't it? I mean, sometimes, of course, you say populist things. Sometimes, of course, you try and catch the spirit of the moment. What Harriet Harman said in that moment about Fred Goodwin was stupid. I mean, to imply that the government would legislate, which is what she was implying, in order to affect one man's pension was a stupid thing to say. But I do think that public opinion should play some part in the way capitalism works. And one of the things that's gone wrong is that these people have been rewarding themselves in a way which bears no relationship whatsoever to the real risks that they've been taking with their own money. And public opinion has to come in somewhere and say there are limits to decent behaviour. Indeed, it should go further and say there are not only limits to decent behaviour, there are also responsibilities and obligations we expect people at the top of our society to take on. And there, I think they would come closer to what politicians experience, because politicians are, of course, shaped by public opinion in another sense. One of the reasons that politicians aren't worse than they are, and I know they're not very good, but one of the reasons they're not worse is that they do fear what the Daily Mirror is going to look like tomorrow. They do fear what's going to be said about them.
They have to be disciplined by public opinion. The problem, of course, Connie, is public opinion can be very fickle. 1 million votes one day.
Absolutely, it is. You know, it's a fickle business, and it's like I say. One moment you're a hero, and next minute it's tall poppy syndrome that the media can build you up, and then the next day they'll cut you down.
Media can be very fickle, but I think in the medium and long term, public opinion tends to get people right.
Yeah,
I mean, over the long term, the public, once they've summed you up,
absolutely.
I
think once they've got a good assessment of you, and it's very difficult.
You think they stick with you then?
Absolutely, I think once you have this,
it's the media that's more fickle. You're saying than public opinion, because the media likes to build people up.
Absolutely.
And then knock them down.
It's really the media, but the trouble is with the media, we often just are absorbed by it and we believe everything we read, whereas once there's a negative impression of someone out there, it's very difficult to backtrack that first impression.
Because since my defeat was voted by television viewers their third favourite moment of the 20th century, I hope that public opinion can be swayed and shaped and changed over a period of time.
Dan only voted 7 times that night. Politicians are very selective when it comes to public opinion. They're all in favour of public opinion when they think, when they're going with the grain, like beating up on Fred the Shred. Public opinion didn't want to bail out the banks, but they still did it.
Yeah, but I mean, what is it? I forget the 18th century politician. I owe the public my judgment, not my vote. Yeah. That's the point.
So that comes back to your original point.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, surely the guiding should be that the job of politicians is to be in touch with public opinion, but not always to be led by it. That you know what public opinion is. Sometimes you'll go with it. Other times you'll say, no, that may be public opinion, but it's not what we're going to do.
I was taught by someone at university who said that the skill of the great politician was to make people want you to say what you wanted to say in the first place. And that really is the skill. And there are some people, I mean, you know, dare I say it, Margaret Thatcher, whose anniversaries we're celebrating about this time, I think was someone who kind of shaped public opinion in that way.
It's not always possible. When I was a new MP, there was the whole Salman Rushdie satanic verses thing. And I once had an advice session crowded out with mullahs and Muslim leaders saying, if you don't, agree to burn this book, we'll never vote for you again. And I said, well, you just will not have to vote for me again. And in fact, they always did. So,
public opinion can also be very emotional. That's why it's not always reliable. Public opinion can get carried along in a great wave of emotion, and then when the emotion's gone, they wondered what they were really supporting.
Absolutely. We are very passionate as a nation. I think that's really why we can't rely on that, on the masses' emotion, rather to be led by a politician who can think about the longer term and not just about the instant passion.
So, let's get to what happened this week. What was Harriet Harman up to in that BBC studio on Sunday morning? She had time to think what she was going to say. She knew the subject would come up, and she had a carefully constructed answer about the court of public opinion. Didn't just trip off the tongue. She had thought it beforehand. What was she trying to do?
Well, I think for one thing, she was trying to align herself to where she knows public opinion is. I'm not sure she was implying she would change the law.